Hello and warm greetings. Welcome to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi, where we would try to comprehensively analyze 7 articles in 2 different sections along with the daily mains answer writing program. In the analysis part, we'll first have a discussion regarding the future of India's green transition in the context of coal still dominating the electricity production. Then in the second article, we'll have a discussion regarding the menace of digital arrests, the associated challenges and the way forward. Then in the prelims pointer section, we'll have a discussion regarding 5 different topics for the upcoming prelims examination along with the value addition. So stay tuned. Now before we start today's discussion, let me just convey something to you. Yesterday's 2026 prelims paper once again showed us that why UPSC is known as the most unpredictable examinations in the world. Many of you have studied a lot for years, but still you came out with that uncertainty on your face from the examination hall. Let me be very honest and tell you that uncertainty is not a sign of failure. It's a part of the process itself. We really cannot do anything about the nature of the examination. But if this dream matters to you, if this objective of qualifying the examination truly matters to you, then after a brief pause, rise again. Let's gather ourselves together and let's start the preparation again. My best wishes with all of you, with all the serious aspirants. Now, coming to the very first article, it talks about the future of India's green transition. Now, there are 3 points which you'll have to understand. The very first point is that India has been adding a lot of renewable energy capacity in the last few years, especially after 2017. What we have observed is that renewables have formed the major part of the power additions in the overall supply chain. Second thing, what you'll have to understand is that despite the fact that we have been adding the renewable energy capacity, we are not utilizing it properly. Still, we are a lot of dependent on the coal sources, on the coal for electricity generation. That's the second point. Third point, what you'll have to understand is that the West Asian crisis has again resurfaced the debate with respect to energy sovereignty, because India is a country which is highly dependent on the world for its energy needs, primarily once we talk about the oil and the gas. So therefore, we need a paradigm shift. We are already working a lot with respect to the renewable energy capacity, but we are not able to utilize it. That is what the article talks about, and this becomes a very important component of GS3, both energy and environment. Rising renewable energy capacity has yet to substantially displace the coal generation. That is what you'll have to understand. Now, if you look at the overall context, what you'll have to understand is that once we talk about India's renewable energy growth, there has been a structural shift. We have added the renewable energy capacity with rapid strides. We have made a lot of progress with respect to the overall capacity addition in the overall power structure as far as renewable energy is concerned. One of the world's fastest growing renewable energy markets is in India. If you look at this particular infographic, it tells you a very good number. It says renewable share in installed power capacity in 2005 was just 0.72%, and this has increased to almost 42.4%. Can you just imagine that we have made such rapid strides as far as the renewable energy capacity addition in India is concerned? Now, once we talk about the coal share in the installed capacity, it was almost 58.7%. And look at this, it has reduced to almost 42.2%. That is what you'll have to understand. Here we are talking about the installed capacity. We're not talking about the utilization aspect. There are 2 different things. Please understand. One is that how much of the capacity you have and how much of it is being utilized. That is what creates a lot of difference. Renewables have been the new power capacity additions. Once we talk about the new power capacity additions after 2017, renewables have been the major sources. We have added more of renewable energy as compared to the other sources. That is what you'll have to understand. There has been the aggressive expansion of the solar energy, of the wind energy, of the transmission infrastructure with respect to the renewable energy. So there has been an aggressive expansion. What have been the major schemes or the missions or the initiatives by the government? Let's talk about that. The very first is National Solar Mission. Once we talk about the National Solar Mission, what you'll have to understand is that it forms one of the major missions of the National Action Plan for Climate Change. Okay? Very important component, primarily deals with the fact that we need to deploy the solar energy as much as possible. Okay. Next is the PM Kusum scheme. Primarily, it deals with the aspects of the solar powered irrigation pumps, so as to make sure that we integrate the solar energy with the agricultural aspect, so that the utilization of energy in the agricultural sector is based on solar energy. Then we have the green energy corridors. What it means is, it talks about the transmission infrastructure so as to evacuate the green energy from one particular area in the country and then transfer it to the other areas. Then we have National Green Hydrogen Mission. Again, the very objective is to scale the green hydrogen production in the country so as to promote the production, the export and the utilization of the green hydrogen. Okay. Next is production linked incentive schemes for the solar modules. Again, what we have done through this is that we are providing incentives to the manufacturers of solar modules, so that the dependency on the Chinese firms which Indians have, it reduces. Okay. Next is International Solar Alliance. We had this particular initiative which we started in COP21, Conference of Parties 21, alongside France, where the objective is to maximize the generation of solar energy, to make sure that there is proper climate finance, there is proper technology transfer, and there is also the climate action. That is what you'll have to understand. Now, what is the core problem? You have added the capacity, but is the capacity being utilized? That is one of the major issues. The core problem is that capacity is not transitioning to, it's not equal to that of the actual electricity generation. Installed capacity is not the same as electricity generated. Look at these numbers. As of April 2026, once we talk about the sources, the renewables and the coal, share in the installed capacity of the renewables is almost 42.4%. Okay. And share of the coal is 42.2%. Almost same. But look at the share in actual electricity generation. The 42.4% of the capacity which you have in the renewables, it is just contributing to almost 15.8% as far as the overall electricity production is concerned. And the other 42.2% of the coal, this is producing almost 72% of the overall electricity in the country. That is a mismatch. That is the great divergence. That you have almost equal capacity, but are you utilizing that capacity? It basically means that you have the potential, but you are not doing anything. You're just sitting idle. So it's of no use. So even if a particular person has a potential, and if that person is doing nothing, it's absolutely useless. So even though we have the renewable energy capacity, we are not utilizing it. That is the biggest issue. What does this mean? This means that coal still forms one of the major shares with respect to the overall electricity production in the country is through the coal, by burning coal, and that also leads to pollution. So that is what you'll have to understand. And India as a country, we have the nationally determined contributions. We have set targets, and see, this is really worth praising that India is working a lot towards it. We actually are taking the responsibility, not like the Western countries who have shrugged off their responsibilities. They are primarily responsible as far as the present state of climate is concerned. Look at the heat waves we are having. Why? Because it is primarily due to the anthropogenic reasons, the pollutions which has been emitted over the years, and the developed countries are primarily responsible. But still, as a responsible country, we have taken a lot of initiatives. But what you'll have to understand is still we are dependent a lot on the coal. Even though we have the capacity with respect to renewables, we are not utilizing it. Okay? Renewables are being added on top of coal. What it means is ideally the renewables should replace the coal, but we are not replacing it. We are actually adding on top of it. So that is a very major issue. But what are the reasons for this? We have the capacity, okay, but still you are not using it. So there must be a few reasons, right? The very first is the intermittent nature of renewables. Let's talk about the solar and the wind power. The generation of solar energy and the wind energy, it is dependent on the weather. You cannot have the production of solar energy during the night times. There is a seasonal variations. If you have the monsoon season and the sky is covered with the clouds, you'll not be able to generate the solar energy. If the wind is not moving, if there's a complete low pressure scenario, then how would you be able to generate the wind energy? So there is the intermittent nature. And in order to fill this particular gap, we have the coal as the primary source of energy, right? Lack of large scale energy storage. Matlab kya hai? Then let's say that we are producing, it's very shiny, and we are producing, it's very sunny, and we are producing the solar energy. Now, whatever extra energy you are producing, you can reserve it, you can store it, but we don't have adequate grid scale battery storage systems. See, use these words in your answer. That is how you make your answer look more credible, more authentic. Grid scale battery storage systems. So if we had these storage systems, it would be easy for us to utilize that energy during the night times when there is no production of the solar energy. So that is what you'll have to understand. We don't have the balancing infrastructure. We don't have the transmission lines. So this is one of the great issues which we have. Balancing systems between the fossil and that of the renewable energy capacity. Coal provides the base load power. See, you cannot just have issues with the coal. Why? Because coal is something which is one of the most important sources of continuous and stable power. Continuous and stable power. It is not just filling the gap, but it is acting, and see, it is very efficient in a way that the process is very simple and you get electricity very soon. It is not that technologically intensive as compared to that of the installation of the solar and the wind energy, right? So this acts as the grid stabilizer balancing mechanism, right? Now, we are also witnessing a continued exposure to global energy shocks. But sir, what is the link over here? We already know that we are having the West Asia conflict, and because of it, the oil and the gas supplies to India have been affected. But does it have a correlation with the coal? Yes, it does. Once the overall prices of the oil and the gas in the world market, in the global markets have increased, it has also led to the increase in the prices of the coal. And therefore, there has been, see, oil and gas prices increase. It has led to an increase in the overall logistics costs. And the end consumer is facing the brunt of it. So we are also witnessing a lot of fiscal pressures, not just with respect to oil and gas, but also with respect to the coal generation, whatever is happening because of Strait of Hormuz crisis. Okay? But what other countries are doing? Let's talk about the case study of China. And again, over here, once you're writing the answers, the case studies matter a lot. The examples matter a lot. So even if you just mention in the one part of the page that what China is doing, what Spain is doing, that would make the examiner, it would convince the examiner that you have a proper idea of the subject. China, in the last few years, it has added a lot of renewable energy capacity. Not just the overall capacity with respect to electricity generation, but also with respect to the electric vehicles. More than 50% of the new car sales, in China, it is of electric vehicles. Oil and gas just form 4% of the power production in China. It has given a lot of emphasis to the electrification. So the lesson is that on one hand, it has given impetus to electrification, electric vehicles. On the other hand, its manufacturing capacity, its leadership in the manufacturing capacity has helped to basically have a stabilized energy market. It is not that dependent on oil and gas. Definitely it is consuming a lot of oil and gas, but the dependency has been reducing over time. Similarly, Spain has come up with very innovative programs, innovative products with respect to the integration of the fossil and the renewable energy capacity. We can learn from that. So these are the system transformations which India can learn. Now, India's energy transition, is everything bad? No. We have added a lot of things. We have the capacity, but we are not utilizing it. And we have really worked hard for it. Rapid renewable energy capacity expansion. I told you, since 2017, renewables have acted as the major power addition in the overall capacity. Then global leadership in solar energy. Let's talk about the International Solar Alliance. We are basically partnering with the countries around the world so as to make sure that we have adequate technology transfer, especially to the African countries or the climate finance. Okay, so these are the areas where we have been working. Strong policy push towards green transition, towards green transition in the form of the energy, in the form of the electric vehicles. We have done that. Okay. Reduced new fossil fuel capacity additions since 2018. We are trying to make sure that the capacity additions in the fossil fuel, oil and gas or the coal, it is reduced. Okay. Next, growing EV ecosystem. Let's talk about the FAME scheme. Tell me the ministry which is spearheading the FAME scheme. PM E-Drive. Also tell me the objectives of these schemes in the comment section. Then expansion of green hydrogen mission. So we have certain hard to abate sectors. Those sectors which consume a lot of energy and are still dependent on the fossil fuels. So why not we replace those fossil with the green hydrogen? That is a very objective with respect to the green hydrogen mission. Okay. But what are the structural challenges? The very first is that there is a lot of gap between the capacity and the generation. And why there is a gap? You'll have to understand. Because we don't have the adequate infrastructure. आपने capacity बना दी, but you're not able to evacuate the power. You have, let's imagine, a solar farm in Rajasthan, but you don't have the adequate transmission infrastructure. You don't have the adequate battery storage systems or the pumped hydro storage, different kinds of storage systems. So during daytime, even though you have excess power supply, excess power generation, you'll not be able to use it. It would go waste. So why not come up with that particular infrastructure? Coal dependence. More than 70% of the electricity generated is still through coal. Again, a point of concern, leading to a lot of pollution. Okay. Energy storage deficit. As I told you, we don't have the pumped hydro storage or the battery storage systems. We need to have these storage systems, and that too at large scale, at grid scale. Okay. Weak grid infrastructure. We don't have the adequate integration. Bhai, ye dekho. We have the renewable energy capacity and we have the fossil fuel capacity. How to basically integrate the grids? This is the infrastructure I'm talking about. This is the transmission infrastructure I'm talking about. So we don't have the adequate transmission infrastructure. Import vulnerability. A lot of our energy needs are dependent on the imports. Let's talk about the oil and gas. More than 80% of the oil needs are dependent on the other countries. And that too, 50% of it comes through the Strait of Hormuz. So you can just imagine, a clash over there, a naval blockade over there has led to such big crisis in India. Almost doubled. Prices have been doubled. Critical mineral dependence. Now, why critical mineral? I'm talking about the critical minerals over here. If, sir, you are saying that we need to integrate battery storage systems. Battery storage systems need these critical minerals. Lithium, cobalt, copper. So we will have to focus on the supply of these critical minerals, which is presently being dominated by China. China has the processing capacity, it has a refining capacity, which we don't have. Okay, so these are some of the issues. What should be the way forward? Shift from capacity creation to system transformation. It's not just the capacity which matters. As I told you, just imagine a person having the potential, but not working towards the goal. If a person is not working towards the goal, it's pretty useless. Similarly, if we have the capacity, but we are not utilizing it, that is a point of concern. We need to have system transformations. Okay. Next, massive investment in storage. We'll have to come up with battery storage systems. There's no other alternative. If you have excess energy production during the daytime, why you're not storing it so that you can utilize it during the night times? As of now, you are using the coal energy. The base load power is being used through the coal energy. So you'll have to come up with the battery storage systems. Grid modernization, integration, transmission infrastructure, power evacuation. So all these things required the integration and modernization. Integration of technology also. Reduce coal gradually, not abruptly. Now this is very important because there are many protagonists, there are many people who say that coal should be removed. We cannot remove it. Why? Because it has to be phased. The process has to be phased. Even if you want to reduce the coal dependence, the whole process has to be phased process. It should be economically viable. If you're coming up with the alternatives need to be viable. Financially viable hona chahiye na. it is not financially viable, how would you be able to continue it? Okay? Diversify the energy imports. You cannot be just dependent on one particular region for your energy needs. You'll have to diversify the imports, oil and gas. Secure critical mineral supply chains. Co-partner with other countries. Co-production, co-development. For example, we have the lithium triangle. So India has a very goodwill. It has a very good image in the minds of the other people. Not like China, where a lot of Chinese enterprises have exploited the African resources. So why not we come up in collaborative projects with African countries, with Latin American countries, which have a huge deposits of these critical minerals. Promote electrification. For example, in the form of electric vehicles or electric buses, public transport, so they can be utilized. So this is what you'll have to understand. Though we have worked a lot in the capacity additions, but that has not translated into the overall utilization of the energy. Okay? So this needs to be kept in mind, and we'll have to focus on these areas. We have talked about the case studies, and these are the issues, and these are the way forwards. Only then we'll be able to truly achieve the NDCs which we have set as a responsible nation. Now, let's talk about a mains practice question. And again, please start writing, because looking at the kind of questions we have had in prelims this year, what you'll have to understand is that many of the mains aspects were also reflected in the prelims. So make sure that you start writing. That is really going to help you also in the prelims. India's energy transition is real but incomplete. In the context of rising geopolitical instability and global energy prices shocks, critically examine the gap between the renewable energy capacity addition and the actual electricity generation in India. Discuss the structural challenges that continue to sustain coal dependence and suggest measures required for achieving a resilient and secure energy transition. 15 marks, 250 words. Again, I'm advising all of you, if you are really serious about the preparation, please start writing. There is no other alternative. And yes, if you're liking the initiative, do not forget to press the like button, and also let us know in the comments. Let's go to the next topic. Coming to the next topic, this is about the menace of digital arrests. As the pace of digitization is expanding, so we are witnessing the number of the cyber crimes in the country. Cyber crimes, for example, we have phishing activities, we have ransomware, we have cyberbullying. One of the cyber crimes is digital arrests, where the gullible population, those people who can be easily duped, they are being defrauded. There are people who are impersonating, who are acting as the law enforcement officers, officer from CBI, officer from the state police, and then intimidating the other person, and then extracting a huge sum of money. Now, this has become a very grave issue, because it not only has the financial implications, paisa to ja hi raha hai, but the trust of the people in the law enforcement agency is also reducing, it's eroding. We have one particular case in Bengaluru, where an elderly woman has been duped of almost 24 crore rupees, where persons have impersonated as officials from CBI and then extracted this amount. So again, a very grave issue. Last year itself, the Prime Minister talked about the seriousness of this particular issue. And he said that as soon as you think that someone is trying to dupe you, you should report that matter to the National Cybercrime Coordination Center. So this is what you'll have to understand. Digital arrest, 6 held for duping the elderly woman in Bengaluru of 24 crores. So what is digital arrest? Where we have certain people, the criminals, who basically through various online platforms, for instance, let's talk about WhatsApp or Telegram, basically with fake identities and fraudulent documents. See, you'll have to understand, the process is highly complex. These people first do a proper research, a proper analysis. They try to gather a lot of document with respect to the other person, and then utilize those documents in a way that the other person can be intimidated, and then act as people from one particular agency. Let's say someone is calling you saying that I'm from CBI. Now, a well-aware person would definitely respond properly. But those people, let's say people from the rural background or elderly people, they're not that digitally literate, or they don't have the knowledge with respect to the legal rights. They can be duped easily. They are gullible population. So this is a very serious issue. They manipulate the criminal justice system, present themselves as law enforcement officials, impersonate themselves, which is a crime. Impersonation. Okay. Typically exploit the vulnerable citizens, elderly population, people from the rural areas, digital platforms, through various digital platforms like WhatsApp or Telegram. Now what you'll have to understand is that since these platforms are encrypted, that is also an issue, because whatever conversation is going on between that particular person and this gullible population, gullible people, elderly or the rural population, the law enforcement agencies cannot trace it because of the nature of these platforms, digital platforms. Leverage the fear of arrest or prosecution to coerce the victims, to force the people. So as I told you, they would gather the documents and they would then try to manipulate the other person, that we have your documents, you have committed this particular thing. If you want to save yourself, give us that money. Give us this much amount of money. So that is the whole modus operandi, the way in which things operate. Fraudsters impersonate as law enforcement officials, issue fake arrest warrants and demand bribes. If you look at the current status, digital fraud cases, they have surged in the recent years. And according to the MHA, Ministry of Home Affairs, there were almost 50,000 cases which were registered in the year 2022. Now, these are the registered cases. And there are many more unregistered cases also, where people don't even go to the law enforcement agencies and file their case. Contribute significantly to the cybercrime. Contribute significantly as far as the losses to the nations are concerned. Financial losses. According to the National Crime Records Bureau, in 2022, the nation suffered a loss of almost 1.25 trillion rupees because of these cyber crimes. One of the cyber crimes is digital arrest. Okay? Commonly target the vulnerable individuals, and again understand, more than 60% of these individuals who have been targeted, they are more than 40 years of age. So again, they are targeting the elderly population. That is what you'll have to understand. Let's talk about certain infographics. An RTI was filed and information was sourced from the Reserve Bank of India, and this is on that basis we have these charts. Again, you need not to memorize it, but you can quote some data in your answers. Look at this. According to the data from the Reserve Bank of India sent in response to the author's RTI application, 3,200 crores, almost 3,200 crores was lost because of 5,82,000 cases of cyber fraud between financial year 20 and 24. This you can memorize. Almost 3,200 crores were lost as cyber fraud, because of cyber frauds. Look at this. The number of cases of cyber frauds across the year in banking transactions. So if you look at this, there has been a sudden spike. In the financial year 22 and 23, it was 75,000. Look at the numbers, almost touching 3 lakhs in the financial year 23-24. Look at this. The amount of loss incurred from cyber fraud in crores, the massive jump you are witnessing, was almost 421 crores in 22-23, and it has jumped to almost 2,000 crores in 23-24. Okay? Next, the state-wise share of the total cases. The state which bears the maximum brunt of these cyber frauds is Maharashtra, accounts for more than 1/4 of the amount lost owing to the cyber fraud. Why? Primarily because we have Mumbai over there, and Mumbai is the commercial capital of India, right? Then we have Tamil Nadu and Delhi. Then look at this. The chart shows the number of cases of cyber fraud in public sector and private sector banks. More in private sector, less in public sector. At least over here they're performing better. Then the chart shows the values of cyber frauds in public sector and private sector banks. You can just have a look. So this is what a scenario. The scenario with respect to the cyber frauds. But the question is that why it is really important to curb these digital arrests. The very first is the trust in the law enforcement. If these events continue to happen again and again, people would lose, or people would basically have no trust in the law enforcement agency. They would not be able to differentiate between the real ones and the fake ones. So it has to be stopped. Financial security, a lot of money, as I told you, between 20 and, according to NCRB, almost 1.25 trillion was lost in 22. 1.25 trillion rupees, a lot of it is being lost. People, their hard-earned savings for years, they're lost in a moment. Then need for stronger cybersecurity. If these events continue to happen, you'll have to invest more in cybersecurity. That would demand resources. That would demand more skilled professionals. That would require a lot of resources. Okay? Now, what are the challenges? The very first is lack of public awareness. People are not aware about their legal rights. They become intimidated very soon. They, get ready. See, they have, why they're ready? Because they must have committed some issues. There must be some fault on their part also, which is being exploited by these fraudsters. And then they are forced to pay, compelled to pay. Legal rights के बारे में information नहीं है. They're not digitally literate. ठीक है? Complexity of digital frauds. As I told you that these people are using the encrypted platforms, Telegram, WhatsApp, which are hard to trace, or voice over internet protocol. Again, it's very hard to trace it. ठीक है? Insufficient cybersecurity and infra. We may have come up with the I4C, India Cybercrime Coordination Center, or the NCCC, National Cybercrime Coordination Center. But the issue is that still we don't have the adequate infrastructure. A lot of these cases go unreported. Okay? Resources and expertise is not there. Then identity thefts and impersonation. They are using sophisticated techniques. They are now using the AI also. Their technology, and many of them are basically engineers who are coming in this domain because now they can earn more through these activities. So they have a proper knowledge of these technical aspects, deep fakes, AI and everything. So that is how they are using it. Then legal and regulatory gaps. The pace at which the technology has progressed, it has always been faster than that of the regulatory structure. You may come up with the regulations, but they are always obsolete. Why? Because technology always runs faster. So you'll have to always be in that catch mode. Okay? Rural vulnerability. People are not digitally literate, and therefore there are issues. They're gullible. They can be easily, frauded, defrauded, and therefore these events are taking place. But what have been the government laws, schemes, and initiatives? The very first is Information Technology Act of 2000. We have section 66D, which talks about the impersonation, and it also prescribes the punishment for that, addresses the cheating aspect. Then we have various sections in the Indian Penal Code, which has been replaced by the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. But we have a lot of sections. 420 deals with the cheating aspect. 419 deals with the impersonation. Section 465, forgery. Because these people are forging the documents fraudulently. Okay? Digital Person Data Protection Act. So definitely there are issues with respect to this act, but it is protecting the personal data of the individuals. You must have heard about the significant data fiduciaries, data principles, these terms within this particular act. Then we have Cyber Swachhata Kendras under the overall ambit of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. It provides the alerts. Whenever such events are going to happen, it may happen, then this particular Cyber Swachhata Kendra, it provides the alerts and advisories, normal advisories. National Cybercrime Reporting Portal, this is what the Prime Minister said, that whenever you come across any of these events or activities, you must report it to this particular portal. Then we have National Cyber Security Policy. This is the overarching framework, which basically talks about the ways in which we need to strengthen and make more robust the overall cyber security policy architecture in the country. National Cybercrime Coordination Center. Again, this is an agency which comes under the overall ambit of the CERT-N, Computer Emergency Response India, which is again a part of the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. What it does is, it basically makes sure that it traces the communication metadata. It's a surveillance agency kind of thing, and provides the intelligence. Okay? We also have the I4C, India Cybercrime Coordination Center. That comes under the Ministry of Home Affairs. Remember that. What should be the way forward? Strengthening the cyber laws and data protection framework. See, the problem in India is that we have very good laws and rules and regulation, but the implementation is not robust. There has to be proper implementation. Even in many of the states, across various police stations, the police personnel are not even aware of these laws. So that is also an issue. Improved cybercrime investigation infrastructure. specialized cybercrime units we have been setting up in Delhi. Why not in other states? At least in the metropolitan cities, we can come up with these specialized units which deal with the digital fraud investigations, advanced forensic tools, cyber forensic tools, technology investments, so that there is a real-time monitoring and detection if any of these activities take place. A proper grievance redressal mechanism must be placed. Okay? Public awareness campaigns in the form of digital literacy programs, primarily in the rural areas, through various calls or SMS alerts, through radios and other. What we talk about is the information, education and communication campaigns. Okay? Collaborate with financial institutions and telecom companies. Telecom companies also play a very important role. They must, at regular intervals, give advisories to their subscribers that do not fall a prey to these people, right? SMS and call verification, robust security protocols, multi-factor authentication. This is again in order to have a proper firewall. Once digital transactions are considered, we need to have these multi-factor authentication, strengthen cross-border cooperation, knowledge exchange with those countries which have significantly improved as far as managing the cyber crimes is concerned. Okay? Tracing techniques and QR mechanisms, quick response code, and the mutual legal assistance treaties. Most of these activities, you must be aware, you must have heard about this. The people are also perpetrating these crimes from Pakistan. Many of these activities are taking place in the foreign jurisdiction. You must have heard that we have a lot of these Pakistani nationals who are duping Indians. Now, in such a scenario, what you'll have to understand, where cybersecurity is completely borderless, you'll have to come up with the mutual legal assistance treaties so that those people who are involved in these crimes, they can be extradited. A proper prosecution can take place. तो वहां पर ML80s का बहुत importance है. So what we are trying to say is that it's not just about the financial security part. It's also about the trust people have in the law enforcement agency, and that is getting eroded. Let's have a mains practice question. Examine the rise of digital arrest frauds in India, discussing the method used, the impact on citizens' privacy and security, and the legal and technological challenges in tackling such frauds. Suggest the steps that can be taken by the law enforcement agencies and policymakers to address the issue. 10 markers, 2 pages. Do write, because this is again going to boost your answer writing abilities. Let's go to the next section. Now, coming to the prelims pointer section, we have the very first topic which talks about the water hyacinth. Now, this is an invasive species, and we have women self-help group in Assam which are utilizing this water hyacinth and coming up with their own products, for example, dining mats and runners. So this is also creating the opportunities, employment opportunities. Let's go through this. A livelihood initiative supported by the International Rhino Foundation has helped the women in the fringe areas of central Assam's Laukhoba Burha Chapori Wildlife Sanctuary, sorry for the pronunciation if it's wrong, turn weed into wealth. A key biodiversity area of almost 115 square kilometers. It's a contiguous within the landscape of Kaziranga National Park and the Tiger Reserve. Now what they have done is they have utilized the abundant water hyacinth in this particular landscape to craft the market-ready utility items. So this is also a very innovative thing where you already have the invasive species over there. Now you are utilizing it for your financial gains. Definitely very good. Considered one of the world's most invasive aquatic weeds, the fast-growing water hyacinth affects the freshwater ecosystem by physically and chemically suffocating the life beneath the water surface. So this is the water hyacinth. It grows on the surface, and then it basically suppresses the aquatic life which is in the water. It covers that, right? The two groups of women were trained and provided with the necessary equipment and facilities to produce a variety of household items with water hyacinth. The manufacturers of the water hyacinth products belong to two self-help groups. Self-help groups, again very important with respect to the overall women empowerment, especially once we talk about the financial empowerment. Pragati in Singimari village and Bonani in the Kaliadinga village. After undergoing the advanced training, the women have been churning out the dining mats, dining table runners, baskets, and the bags of various sizes and utilities, purses, bags, serving bowls, paper tissues, boxes, mobile phone holders, hanging flower vases, and other things. And these are definitely adding and aiding as far as the overall financial empowerment is concerned with respect to these women. So just note that this is an invasive species and now it is being utilized to have different products. Let's go to the next topic. Coming to the next topic is a mention of Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve, where a tiger killed a woman. So therefore this becomes important. Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve, it's located in the Umaria district of Madhya Pradesh. It's spread over the Vindhya hills. Remember this because there can be a question with respect to that which hills cross this particular reserve. It derives its name from the most prominent hillock in the area, which was said to be given by Lord Rama to his brother Lakshmana to keep a watch on Lanka. Hence the name Bandhavgarh. Brothers Fort. Topography varies between steep ridges, undulating forests and open meadows. The reserve features around 39 caves with Pali inscriptions and animal depictions. So this is again it also have a prehistoric importance. It also contains ancient structures including stupas and statues from the 1st century BC. Flora, the vegetation of the Bandhavgarh is especially filled with sal forest in the valleys and bamboo stretches on the lower slopes of the region. Some of the most famous floral species include Saj, Dhaura, Tendu, Arjun, Amla, Palas. Fauna, the animals. It is known to have one of the highest density of tigers in the world. It also hosts other notable mammals such as leopards, Indian bison known as god, sambar deer, spotted deer, nilgai, wild boar, sloth bears, Indian wolves, jackals, and both langurs and the rhesus macaque monkeys. It also has over 250 bird species including the crested serpent eagle, Malabar pied hornbill, white rumped vulture. Again, you'll have to memorize this because they can be asked in the prelims. So this is what we have for Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. Let's go to the next topic. Coming to the next topic, the Defense Research and Development Organization has tested new missiles. So therefore, it becomes important. Why? Because UPSC is now focusing also on the defense areas. We just saw in the prelims of 2026, there are many questions which has come from the defense aspect. So therefore, this becomes quite important. The Defense Research and Development Organization last week carried out the final development trials of the Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Launched Precision Guided Missiles, V3. A DRDO scientist said that compared with the V1 and the V2 variants, these were tested before. The ULPGM V3 represents a significant advancement in India's indigenous drone-launched missile capability. So it's a drone-launched missile capability. You can just have a look. It's being launched with the help of a drone, unmanned aerial vehicle. The V1 was basic free-fall precision missile, and the V2 introduced propulsion, longer range and mid-course target updates. The V3 adds the ability to engage both grounds and aerial targets, including the drones and helicopters. The ULPGM V3 is fitted with an advanced guidance system using multiple sensors to accurately track the targets, allowing it to strike a wide range of threats. It can be deployed in both plains and high altitude areas in night or day. It is equipped with two-way data link, enabling operators to change or update the target even after the missile has been launched. So it has a lot of maneuverability, right? Depending upon the mission, the missile can be fitted with 3 types of warheads. These include anti-armor warhead, designed to destroy the heavy protected tanks and armored vehicles, even those fitted with special layers of protection used in modern battle tanks. It also has a penetration-cum-blast warhead meant to pierce and destroy bunkers and fortified structures, and a pre-fragmentation warhead that disperses high-speed metal fragments over a large area to maximize the damage. So this is quite lethal. The missile can engage both stationary and moving targets in all weather conditions. Officials said that the ULPGM V3 has been developed primarily for the Army with the air-to-ground mode for anti-tank roles and air-to-air modes for the drones, helicopters and other airborne targets. A senior army officer said that ULPGM V3 are key as drones increasingly become central to the modern warfare worldwide. Drones have been, and the Russia-Ukraine crisis tells us about the importance of drones. Okay? It also reflects the growing shift towards network-centric warfare, where drones, sensors, and command systems work together in real time to detect and strike targets with precision. So this is what the importance of these missiles is all about. It's a drone-launched version. Let's go to the next topic. Coming to the next topic, we have the NITI Aayog CEO, Nidhi Chibber, who has basically said that there is a need to focus on the integration of employment, skill, and the education aspect. So let's talk about the NITI Aayog. NITI Aayog, which is National Institution for Transforming India, is a policy think tank of the Government of India, established on 1st of January 2015 to replace the Planning Commission. It plays a pivotal, the most important role in formulating policies and fostering cooperative federalism. Cooperative federalism, again, one of the very important aspects in addition to competitive federalism, by involving states in the economic policy making process. Key functions: policy formulations, prepare the long-term, strategic and sectoral policies. Cooperative federalism act as a bridge between the central and the state government. Monitoring and evaluation tracks the implementation of the schemes and evaluates the performance. Think tank provides the knowledge, innovation and thought leadership to address the national challenges. Then NITI Aayog composition. The governing council of the NITI Aayog comprises the Prime Minister, Chief Ministers of all the states and the UTs with legislature, Lieutenant Governors of the other UTs. Ex officio members are Vice Chairman, NITI Aayog, full-time members and special invitees. Chairperson is the Prime Minister, Vice Chairperson appointed by the Prime Minister. Ex officio members up to 4 members from the Union Council of Ministers are nominated by the Prime Minister. Governing Council, also known as Team India, includes the Prime Minister, Vice Chairperson, ex officio members, full-time members, Chief Ministers of the states. That is the reason we are calling it Team India. Lieutenant Governors of UTs, special invitees such as UT administrators of Chandigarh, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, Daman and Diu, Lakshadweep. Chief Executive Officer, Nidhi Chibber, as of now, appointed by the Prime Minister for a set term, manages the NITI Aayog's daily operations and holds the rank of Secretary to the Government of India, senior IS officer most of the times. Full-time members: experts in the domain of economics, science and other disciplines, special invitee experts, specialists, practitioners, domain experts from various aspects and fields. Regional councils formed to address the specific regional issues. These councils consist of Chief Minister, Lieutenant Governors and are chaired by Prime Minister or appointed representative or an appointed representative. Supporting cells and departments: NITI Aayog specialized cells including the circular economy cell. Circular economy, a question was asked in the prelims. Okay, do read about it. Communication cells, library, Northeast Forum, voluntary action cell support its mission and fostering inclusive growth and effective governance across the country. So therefore, question can come with respect to NITI Aayog. Have a look over there. Let's go to the next topic. Coming to the last topic of today's discussion, here's a mention of Gaza, where a family has been killed. So therefore, it becomes important. The geography becomes important. Look at this. We have Israel, and this is the West Bank, right? And this is the Gaza Strip. These together, West Bank and the Gaza Strip, they are basically the state of Palestine, which is a non-member UN observer. Look at this. We have Jordan over here. We have Syria. We have Lebanon. We have the other countries, right? So this is what you have to understand. We also have the concept of Levant. Do let me know the countries which form the part of Levant. Very important, Levant region. Do give me the countries involved in this. Now let's go through the geography of this. We have the Golan Heights, which is primarily Israeli occupied area. Okay. This is the Sea of Galilee, also known as Lake Tiberias. Lake Tiberias, right? Also known as Sea of Galilee. Over here we have the Jordan River coming, right? And how this place gets the name as West Bank, because it's on the west bank of the river Jordan, and then it drains into Dead Sea. Okay. We have the Gaza Strip. Gaza Strip has access to Mediterranean Sea, whereas West Bank does not have access to Mediterranean Sea. That is what you'll have to understand. And we have the other areas also. We have Rafah over here, which gives entry into Egypt. Right now, Gaza Strip is almost completely destroyed by the Israeli authorities, and Israel has almost a complete occupation of this particular area. This is what you have to understand. We have the other areas also. Just have a look, because map is again very important. This year itself, we have seen question with respect to Strait of Hormuz was in the news, but the way in which question has been asked, it's quite different. And that's not just with respect to this particular question. In almost every question. And that is what we analyzed yesterday. See, again, what you'll have to understand is that if you look at the objective of the question, it's not very difficult. Most of the questions, what they're trying to ask is easy, but the way in which they have asked, that makes the very question difficult. So you'll have to train your mind in such a manner that you are able to solve. Okay? Don't be negative. I can totally understand, the conditions of those who really worked hard but not able to make it. Because I have been there, so I truly understand that. But you'll have to rise again. Because in this atmosphere of unpredictability, you need real guidance. We don't know what is going to be the nature of the examination, but if you have the proper guidance, if you have the proper resources, definitely you have the chances of qualifying the examination, because this year itself, even though the paper was difficult, people would qualify the examination. I hope you get it. All the very best. That's all from my side. Thank you so much.